Good evening, everyone. We're about to start our meeting tonight, um, and welcome to the ones who are here and to the ones who are online as well. And every second Monday of the month, we have our meeting in English here. I was talking to my brother, and it's about, I don't know, maybe 15 years that we've been having this meeting. And it's once a month, every second Monday of the month, and um, we usually start by reading a message from the book Our Daily Bread, and we know the amount of time because since every month we do a message, and now tonight we're on message 141. So we read 140 messages so far, and now we're gonna read in a few minutes message 141. But before we read, we're going to do a prayer. And after the prayer, we're going to read it. After we read and make a brief comment, we're going to invite Hendrick, and he's going to come to talk about the gospel according to Spiritism tonight. We're going to talk about chapter 11, and um, it's about that passage where Jesus says, "Give Caesar's which belongs to Caesar, and give God what belongs to God." And then Hendrick's going to talk to us about that. But as I said, let's do an initial prayer, and then we're going to read this message from Our Daily Bread. And if we want to close our eyes, feel free to do so if you can, so that we can connect with God and with the good spirits, to thank them once again for being here for us, for allowing us to have once again the opportunity to be alive and to share these teachings that our dear friend Jesus came to us to tell, to live, and to show how to put in practice the love of God for every single creature in the universe. So, dear friends, dear Master Jesus, and above all, dear God, we would like to be grateful to you for everything that we've been receiving. And may we tonight be able to be happy with you because of the blessings that we are all receiving, so that we can, when we leave here tonight, spread more love and more fraternity everywhere we go. May your love be upon us all, tonight and forever. So be it. So, as I said, we're going to read message 141 from the book Our Daily Bread, which was psychographed by the medium Francisco Cândido Xavier, which is known as Chico Xavier, and the spirit who wrote through him is his name is Emmanuel. So our message 141 is entitled Fraternal Love. And Paul, the disciple, or the apostle, which I should say, wrote in his letter to the Hebrews on chapter 13, verse number 1, he wrote, "Let fraternal love remain." And then Emmanuel makes this comment: "Family affections, blood ties, and natural affinities can be very holy manifestations of the soul when individuals raise them to the altar of the higher sentiments. However, the spirit should not fall under the weight of its personal inclinations. Equilibrium is the ideal position, balance. By being overly protective, countless parents cause their children harm. Due to excessive worry, many married couples descend to the caverns of despair, confronted by the insatiable monsters of jealousy that destroys their happiness. Because of carelessness, beautiful friendships end in the abyss of darkness. The above evangelical appeal, therefore, is of great importance. The appeal is, let fraternal love remain. Pure fraternity is the most sublime of the relationships between souls. People who believe they are children of God and sincere brothers and sisters of humankind are not victims of the ghosts of spite, envy, ambition, or mistrust. Those who love one another fraternally are elated with the joy of others, and they are pleased with the good fortune that visits their neighbor. The this is a hard word to say. The tumultuous affections that are common on the earth pass volcanically and uselessly. In the web of reincarnation, affections change constantly. Sublime and pure fraternal love, representing the supreme objective of people's understanding, is the imperishable light that will survive on the eternal path. When I was reading this message, I remembered a passage of a book that's very famous in Spiritist circles, in Spiritism, people that read Spiritist books, just called No Solar. I remember a passage in this book where they are talking about family, and they are talking about family ties, and how people are attached or are linked to each other. And there's a moment where a spirit, which is talking about family ties, he says that we should not. Um, how can I say this? Um, we should not, and it's basically similar to what Emmanuel is saying here. We should. Some of us, we focus so much on one side of love that we forget the other side of love. And what is he saying? So we focus so much on our family only that we forget that we should love other people as well. And right at that moment, he's talking about family love. However, we could also do the other way around. So many people love so much one thing and forget about their family. Or some people love so much their work that forget about everything else. Some people love so much money or time or whatever it is that in us, we forget to balance, that we forget that we have to find a way um, to share this love with everything, or and here I should replace the word everything with everyone, with people. We should share the love for people, and that's why the title of the message is Fraternal Love, is the love that we have for people, and here is for people in general. Emmanuel uses the word humankind, is for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's family or if it's not family, because sometimes we focus so much on one side that we tend to, and the word that in the book No Solar, the spirit called André Luiz that's narrating the book uses, is he uses the word, when we don't use a muscle in our body. Let's say we are sick in bed and we don't exercise, then all of a sudden our arms and our muscles start to become very weak, and they become very thin, and we have no strength because it's atrophied. So what the word that that Andre Luis uses in No Solar is hypertrophy, which is the other way around. Is you use that muscle so much that you make it grow so big that it distorts that muscle. So when we love too much one thing in that sense, and we forget to use on the other side, then we cause an imbalance. So let's imagine that for whatever reason, my work uses only this hand. I only do this. After a few months of doing only this arm will be very strong, and this one will not be as strong because I'm exercising more this one. So basically, what Emmanuel is trying to help us understand is that we need to find a balance. Otherwise, we can distort love. And as he says in the beginning, sometimes we say that we love so much our wife or our husband or our brother or our sister that we tend to become very jealous, and then that distorts love, because it's not what love is about. Love is not about jealousy or possession. Love is about freedom, about letting people choose what they want. If I chose, the other one has to have the opportunity to choose as well. So um, and that's why Paul says, let fraternal love remain. Let it not end. Let it continue. Let it grow. Let it be. Let it become more and more and more. And let's find balance into these types of different types of love, if we want to call that. Um, and he says, pure fraternity is the most sublime of the relationships between souls. It's the most sublime relationship between souls, is to be fraternal, is to be brother, to be sister with every single soul that we have around us, be it our family, be it our coworkers, be people that pass on a street. I remember that, and everything starts with small things. I remember that when I was growing up, and my dad used to go take walks, and he still walks every day. I don't know how much he walks, but he says that he walks every day. Uh, Leaves his house and then goes and then comes back, like 30 minutes of walk or whatever. And then he says one day I was doing this with him. That was, I don't know, 30 years ago or whatever. And we were walking, and then he looks at me and says, you know, and every time he would pass someone right on the street, he would say good morning or good afternoon. Say good morning, good morning. And one day he says, or I asked him, I don't remember, why do you say good morning to everybody? And he says, did you ever look how um, ants walk? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah. So pay attention. So every time an ant passes by another, they always greet each other. They always touch each other to let them know. So this never got out of my mind. So it starts with simple things. And that's why, a good morning, a thank you, a welcome. It's always like the start. I mean, sometimes it becomes so apparently so mechanical, so robotic that we need to be aware, say, whoa, I have to say something. I mean, I have to think about saying, not just saying because I'm saying, but it is a good start. So a good start for us to really one day become more fraternal towards everyone. But my time has come. 7:15 already, and Hendrik needs a little bit of time to talk about his topic. But if you want to read to understand a little bit more about this message 141, fraternal love, from the book Our Daily Bread. And so let's welcome Hendrik. He will be here talking about chapter 11 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, items 5 to 7. Hendrik.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tata, for the introduction. Hoping that we can have a good conversation today. As Mackenzie said, the topic for tonight is from chapter 11 of Gospel According to Spiritism, um, items 5 through 7, where Kardec brings the passage of the Bible that is in Matthew 22, chapter 22, and it's also in Mark chapter 12, 13 through 17. So I wanted to start by reading these passages so we can put context, bring the context of the gospel to our conversation tonight, and hopefully we can learn something together tonight. So in Mark, so in Matthew, right before this passage, they are talking about the previous passage of the Bible is the parable of the wedding banquet. Pharisees are around Jesus asking him questions, and he had just finished telling that parable, and he talks the the Pharisees, right, who were these. Um, they were leaders of kind of a sect of Judaism at the time. Um, there, the introduction of gospel according to Spiritism goes over a little bit about these characters of the Bible, and the Pharisees they tended to be of kind of a very um, how do I say, not strong, but very literal sect of Judaism that they were very strong believers and proud of being doctors of the law, and understanding, knowing everything from the law of God, um, you know, at the time, and so they were. And they obviously Jesus was being pretty revolutionary in his teachings, and he was claiming and as being the 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 Messiah, right, and being having been sent by God, and his message was very different from what they were expecting. Um, so they were always trying to trick him. And so the message here starts: then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words, right? So the Pharisees were always trying to test Jesus in in his positions, according to the laws at the time. And they sent their own disciples, right? So they didn't go directly to Jesus. They sent their own disciples, those who were trying to become um, uh, Pharisees themselves, to go ask, along with the Herodians. I forgot who the Herodians were, but they were, um, they were, students of the law, and they came to Jesus and said, "Teacher," they said, "we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance to the truth. You aren't swayed by men because you pay no attention to who they are." Right? So they come to Jesus really trying to stroke his ego a little bit, and say, "Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay taxes to Caesars or not?" And so it's important to remember a few things about this. Caesar was, from Rome, conquering the world, and he Rome was sending troops and representatives to all of that region of the Middle East, and all throughout Europe. All the way to Syria, to where it's Syria now, and Israel, etc. And they controlled all those areas. And like every every government that controls an area, they require taxes, they require payments. And so the Jews, who felt that they were not being that they first off they were being mistreated by the Romans. The Romans had no right to be there. They obviously didn't want to pay taxes, just like the Americans. We didn't want, or the forefathers of the United States didn't want to pay taxes to the King of England anymore, and therefore revolted against the king. The Jews were also not very happy with Caesar taxing them, and and they understood that because it was law, if you said anything or if you were trying to convince others to not pay taxes, and somebody from Rome heard that, or one of the enforcers heard that, you'd be in real trouble, right? So when they asked for his opinion, is it okay to not pay taxes, and would you be with us, who agree that we shouldn't be paying these taxes, or would you be with Caesar and therefore against us? Um, and would you say that we should pay the taxes? And Jesus, and the Bible says, knowing their evil intent, said, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me?" Right. So Jesus understands right away, that that idea of stroking his ego of, oh, you are so great, we know that you speak of the truth and you're not being swayed by any man, even though they were trying to get him to, trap himself into a corner where he wouldn't have a good solution to the question or a good answer to the question. He understands right away and replies to them, "You hypocrites! Why are you trying to tempt me or trap me? Show me the coin you use for paying taxes." And so they show him the coin, and he says, "Who is that in the coin? Whose portrait is this? Uh, and whose inscription?" So, what face does it show, and what name does it say? And they reply, "It's Caesar's." He says, "Then um, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." When they heard this, they were amazed. So they left him and went away. So they were not expecting a clever answer. Obviously, they were trying to trap him. As in many other cases, the Pharisees wanted to catch Jesus in a put him in a position where he would have to take a very controversial position, and that he would speak up, and therefore would be either accepted, or shown that, you see, there's no difference between you and us, and therefore you're not nothing special. Or they wanted him to be in a situation where the authorities could come down and take him out for being a revolutionary, and trying to disturb the peace, right? So instead, he gives us this really eternal message of um, separating what is of Caesar's, what is really our obligations to a state government, right? To a state, to a government, to this, what governs us in this world, and separating that from what is spiritual, what is divine, and saying, you have to give to Caesar what is his, and worry about and giving to God what is God's. And that this is a pretty famous story, or a famous saying of Jesus. I'm sure most anybody who has heard Christian gospel over their lives has heard this many times, and it's used in day-to-day conversations as well. And it seems like a very simple message that tells us to respect what you know the authorities over us, the government, the king, Caesar, or whatever that represents, that we need to respect that. But more importantly, that we need to devote ourselves to God, right? And if we can easily take that message, to just that aspect and say, there's a very profound message here, right? That says, that points out that you can't live, that you we are here in a world that's governed by rule of law, and that it's our duty to do what is within that framework, within that government, within that law, and do our part, but that we need to devote something to our spiritual, and something to the divine, right? So that's the historical background, right? Is this constant um, struggle that Jesus had with, or that people had with Jesus, of trying to get him to show controversy. But you think of that controversy, and you think of today's climate, right? Today's our relationship with others around us, in a political sphere, just like what's represented by the word Caesar here, and we can see how much division there is, between a party on the left or on the right, or the top or the bottom, however we want to put it. You know, there's this. It appears, and I don't like making huge generalizations, but there's a general feeling that this is uh, very much something of today. That there's a left and there's a right, and it's never been this bad, and there's never been this polarized. And yeah, to some extent, if we compare it to different decades of the recent past, it may be true, it may not be, it may just be that we are more aware of those divisions. But the truth is that there are divisions, right? And you know just like there was at the time the division of, I am the right one because I act this way and I follow these rules, and that person is wrong. The other person on the other side says exactly the opposite, says we are with what's correct, what's moral, what's uh, progressive, and and the other side is just 100% wrong, right? And we see that a lot today, right? And it can be on in any aspect of our lives, whether it's be economic, social economic, and social divisions, economic divisions, racial divisions. There's a lot of that, obviously, that's still going on today. Now, obviously, there's more awareness. Perhaps it's because we are at a point in humankind's life where the exchange of ideas and information, it just goes so much faster than it used to be. But the divisions have always been there. And so what can we learn out of this message that really that we can say it would apply to today as well, right? Obviously, the idea of paying taxes, which is really the main illustration that comes from that, right? How many people, or how many of us wouldn't like to pay less taxes, wouldn't like to not pay any taxes at all, right? We would all like to be able to go through life and not have to, in April, look at that bill and say, man, I wish I could get more of that money back, or I wish I could pay less. And we're all, I think it's a universal feeling that, and that's in English. There's the saying, there are only two things that are certain in life. It's death and taxes, and are essentially the two things that we don't want in our lives, right? We want to keep living. Nobody wants to die, and nobody wants to pay taxes, right? So, right. I'm seeing some beautiful smiles and laughter back there. So maybe I guess there's some agreement with the idea. Um, but the reality is that we can't have the services that we have, the roads that we drive on. We can't have the the police force that protects us, and the plows that clear the roads, etc., if we're not doing our part and paying what's owed to the government, or what's owed to Caesar, right? But is the the questions of others, the questions that go deeper into um, more um, serious concerns that are of a religious nature, they they become more difficult, right? So uh, we can look at the different sects of society, or different sides of society. Some want others to pay more taxes. Some want better division. Some want less taxes and fewer services. The others say just keep taxing the rich and give us more service. And that just seems like it's a never ending battle on both ends, right? But um, what is important, in those scenarios, and I think this is where I wanted to bring message 102 of the book Our Daily Bread, which Mackenzie just read, um, to really to bring what Emmanuel had to say to us about Caesar, this image of the government, um, and us and our part in it. So I thought I'd uh, mark a few things here to to read, because I my memory isn't perfect and isn't great. So I I'd like you guys to bear with me as I read a few things here. Actually, let me read from this copy here, because this is a more recent translation. So again, from Emmanuel and Sheikh Xavier. Um, he starts by saying, yeah, I mean, Caesar always represented the secular government, right? The state, the what we all live in, the society that we all live in. And the first thing that he says, it seems almost like this is a given to all of us, especially to those of us who come from Brazil. That's a lot more. Um, Seems very clear that it's a message directed to the people of the nation. Say, evil individuals will all obviously produce evil politicians, right? So we all have bad politicians, right? Everybody says, everybody agrees, or it seems like a fact, just a truth that every politician is evil in some way, right? So we grew up with that belief. But then he says, collectivities, right, or societies that are idle and indifferent to politics will face disorganized administrations, or will face administrations that are, less than ideal, right? So, you know, pointing out to us that it's still a democracy, it's still an election, and it's still upon us as a people to put those individuals up there. It doesn't matter how evil they are. It's still on all of us to do our part to put the best people up there, and to have real discourse, right? Um, so as we like to say, it's kind of the some of these messages are very, very like sharp needles to us, right? Like they go deep. If we really listen, if we really read them, we see how much of us there is in these messages. But he says, in any case, Caesar's influence will surround the individual and demand the fulfillment of material obligations. So kind of just confirming what we had said before, that we all have to do our part in on the material side, right? So I can't just stop working and expect that food's going to grow on my yard, in my yard. Even if I was planting something, I'd still be working, because the food wasn't going to just grow. So we all have to do some part, right? And so when we when disciples, he says here, the student of the gospel, right? So if we are here reading the books and meeting here for studying these uh, the Christian message, right, or the messages brought by Christ and his disciples and the spirits. Um, it's we are seeking some sort of spiritual enlightenment, right? But if we are, but if sometimes it seems like if you read the message, the that Jesus is telling us, okay, you just got to do, focus on what is God's, and that's it. Everything else will happen. You know, really, that's not all there is to the message, right? And this is this message is a reminder to us that we all need to do our part. And it's important for us to take care of ourselves, take care of our families, take care of our body. Right, we're given by God the body to go through this life. It's our obligation to try to take care of that as well. So we can't disconnect ourselves from the material obligations, right? We study reincarnation, and we understand that we've put ourselves into this um, this condition that we're in, this physical material world, to grow, and therefore we need to do our part in this world as well. And then he says, instead of where does it say? Let us cooperate with the human governing body by offering our goodwill and our participation in its duties, aware that our disinterest or revolt will not resolve its problems, right? So sometimes we see, if we think about the Pharisees, right, we see what seems unjust, right? They were unhappy with the taxes. They wanted that Rome to go away, and something had to be done, and for all injustices in anywhere in the world, something has to be done to go to go away, for that injustice to be fixed and go away and repaired over time. But what he says here are obligations. If there are errors in the laws, let us remember the extent of our individual debts to the divine providence, right? So, often we, as we tend to um, look at the injustice, or look at, what others are doing, and we are very easy to judge. We are very easy to point out what's wrong in what somebody else is doing, what the government's doing, what my neighbor is doing, what anybody else. And we don't remember to really analyze, look inside and see what is it that I'm doing, right? So first thing he says, as usual, right, it's spiritism. So there can't be spiritism without a self reflection, and looking inside oneself. He says, let us remember the extent of our individual debts to the divine providence, right? So, to a certain extent, um, as we've learned from the Gospel according to Spiritism, as we've learned from the Spirit's book, there are we are all here to go through certain tribulations, right? It's not a world where we've come down to live a perfect life. We are going to have to go through some certain difficulties. And so what he's saying is that, it's not that there shouldn't be injustice. That's fine. There are errors in the law. Something has to be done about it. However, right, what we need to do on our end is offer our goodwill and our participation in the duties, um, to to try to do better um, for through on in that injustice, right? And so, um, you know some things come to mind. Abortion is one of them, right? There are it seems like there's a left and there's a right side, and one side is pro-abortion, the other side is against abortion, and the both sides seem to be very keen to be against the other side, right? And kind of defend themselves from a position of being pro something else, and and the discussion ends up turning very instead of being one of here's how we address the moral issue, here's how we address the support issue. Everybody just says the other side is wrong, I'm right. I, I defend choice. I am right. I defend life. I'm right. Whoever's on the other side is wrong, right? And we spend time and time really pointing out how the other side is wrong, as opposed to really trying to address what each side has concerns of, right? So, obviously, as it's a completely off subject, and I don't mean to get into all the merits, but there's merits to every side of every argument, including the sides the discussions of abortion, because there's always somebody suffering, right? There's always it's a baby suffering, is it a mother suffering, is it a whole family suffering? There's always someone suffering, and instead of focusing on that, and instead of focusing on relieving the suffering, right? We tend to focus on judging each other and judging the other, right? And this is um, so um, and you can say this of every controversial topic that you can imagine, right? Um, he Emmanuel goes on to say it is preferable for disciples like us, right, the students of the gospel, to sacrifice themselves and suffer rather than lag behind regarding the respectable laws, the temporary government that temporarily govern them on the physical plane, whether through disobedience towards the established principles or through excessive enthusiasm that tempts them to advance too rapidly for their time. So, um, you know, Emmanuel is really kind of giving as a picture. He's not saying that there can't be change, there shouldn't be change. On the contrary, he's saying he is giving us the freedom to, or the encouragement to do what we can to change. However, revolt, right? Doing something that's wrong, something that breaks the not even the law, but that breaks the contract that I have with my fellow beings, in order to of being civil to each other, of being loving to one another. Um, in the course of trying to defend what I believe in, I'm hurting others, right? And what he's saying here is that it's better for us to it, it's more worthwhile to suffer than to cause suffering, right? And I think that's the last piece of the message that we hadn't addressed before. So, as we said from the beginning, chapter 11 of the Gospel according to Spiritism is is called "Love Your Neighbors as Yourself," right? So, why would Kardec put the message of give to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God what's God's inside of a chapter that's dedicated to the idea of love your neighbor as yourself, right? And so he goes on to say, we should not understand these words, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, in a restrictive or absolute manner. As in everything that Jesus taught, there's a general principle in a restrictive, in which has been, sorry, let me read that again. As in everything that Jesus taught, there's a general principle which has been summarized into a practical and more customary form taken from a certain circumstance. This principle is the consequence of the other one, in which we should do to others as we would have them do to us. So when I decide that I'm going to not respect the taxes that I need to pay, go back to taxes again, because I'm not seeing my services. Oh, my town doesn't do anything. There's trash everywhere. Or, I see that my neighbor is not paying any taxes, and look around. He's buying a expensive car. He's got, a boat and a house. And I know that the only way that he's done that is by not paying taxes. So I'm going to do the same. Right. And so this is why Kardec put this message here, is really to remind us that we all have a part to play in um, in the society that we live in. Right now, um, is it essential? Is it against God's law to not pay taxes to this government? If I don't like the government, or if I don't want to pay my dues, um, you know is it really wrong? Is God going to come after me because I'm not doing that? There's the separation of church and state. So I mean, if I'm doing wrong to the government, I'm not doing anything wrong to God, right? And but really, we have to think of every action that we take in terms of me exercising my right to do what I believe to be right, or what I believe is best for me, versus the duty that I have to those around me to uphold their rights. So if I am not doing my part, whether it's for taxes, whether it's for uh, supporting those that are um, part of my part of my community, or part of my family, if I'm not doing everything that is on me to do, then I'm leaving somebody behind. I'm taking something away from somebody else. And so this is where the invitation of looking at oneself, looking at me, and what is my conscience going to tell me about my decision to do something that maybe the law allows me to do, right? What's my decision or that I wouldn't be caught, or whatever, um, but that I know to be wrong. My conscience is going to come back and haunt me, right? As we study in Spiritism, it's not God that's going to come and be on top of me saying, you know, um, uh, you're going to hell forever for the rest of eternity, right? It's really what is the what is the how am I going to live with myself, really, I think is the question, knowing that what I've done has hurt others, right? So Kardec says here, the principle is the consequence of the one which we should do to others as we would have them do unto us. It condemns every kind of moral or material damage which might be caused to another, as well as disregard for their interests. So when Jesus is telling us, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, really, it's not just to the government, right? It's I have to do my part in everything that I touch, because everything that I'm taking from it, and everything that I want back from it, I need to put in my part. So if I expect respect, right, from those around me, I need to give them the respect that they have. Whether that be at work, whether that be at school, at home, family. My parents, my kids, my wife or husband. What am I doing? What is the level of respect and duty that I'm giving to them, that I would expect them to give to me as well, right? So on Saturday we were talking about this, and I was thinking of examples of people who go through life hating their jobs, right, and hating their but more importantly hating their boss some often, right? And our typical reaction to feeling like we're being asked to do something we don't like to do is to just not do it. It's to despise the person who is asking us to do it. Is to tell them, yes, I will follow what you're telling me to do, and then turn around and sabotage it, or not do the work that is asked of me right now. And really, um, especially in this country, I think we all can agree that there's so much opportunity to find work, to be able to provide for oneself, that the ability that being in a situation where we're working for somebody who we don't like, uh, instead of really sabotaging our own position in that environment, why not just take the first opportunity to move on and say, I'm not getting the respect from you, but I'm not going to give that back to you. I will put myself in a position where I will do what's right, where I will um, you know do my part to the society, right? And just act like an ethical, moral human being, and so such that I can expect, I can give it, and eventually expect that um, you know I will get uh, to me what I deserve, you know, and that I'm giving to others what they deserve, because what they deserve is what I would like to get, right? And that's the key message of the love your neighbor as yourself, is instead of condemning somebody for doing something you don't like, right? Um, you know, do something good instead, right? And I mentioned abortion as an example, but how often do we see people being strong defenders of abortion or strong proponents of choice, but not really spending any time on really either helping the mothers that are in the tough situation, or helping the children that would be born in the situation, or doing anything to go and help kids that are out there waiting to be adopted, for example. I mean, how many opportunities we have for doing something good instead of focusing on the bad, right? Whether you're on one side or the other of the argument, right? And I think that's kind of the invitation, that's kind of the summary of Jesus's invitation here, is find what's good to do, find what you can do that's good, as opposed to just finding the errors, finding the problems and pointing them out, because um, you will achieve a lot more by setting yourself as an example, by doing by giving the example of love, giving the example of respect for others, and for the rights of others, as we go through life, and making these decisions, and making the decision to be helpful and respectful of all of those around us. So um, I think the beauty of this message, like many messages of that Jesus has left us, is that we we can always um, bring it to our current days, and see how it's still a relevant message to it was relevant 2,000 years ago, it's relevant today. And you know, when I'm doing what I can for the others, when I'm doing what I can, when I'm respecting of others' rights, when I am giving to others as they would, I would like them to give to me. That's when I'm giving to God what is of God. Um, whether I'm doing that in a material way, whether I'm doing that just in my attitude of being acting correctly according to you know uh, what I would expect others to do to me. So learning to love myself as a first step, learning to know what I am. Always the message of Spiritism, looking at oneself, finding ways to improve oneself, and applying that to those around us. Um, you know, doing our part in this great big world that we're in, and not forget that doing right is something that you only have to do for one reason. And I used to ask this to my kid: why do you do the right thing? Why do we have to do the right thing? I asked him, and and he gave me excuse me, and he gave me the best answer of all. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and that's why you do it. You do it because it's right. And so, and when we're doing it right, we're giving to God what is God's. And I hope that the message was interesting and enlightening. And thank you for your patience in listening to me. And I'll invite Mackenzie again to finish our message. May God bless us all.
That was really good. So this book was used twice tonight. So we can clearly see how many good um, advices these books from this series can give us. Fraternal love, and then Caesar and us, with what Hendrik just told us. That refers to the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 11, and items 5 through 7. And with this, we finish our meeting for tonight. And thanking everyone for being here. Next month, we are planning to have Flavio Zanetti here, so hopefully he will be he'll be back with us once more, and that will be on the second Monday of the month. I don't remember the date exactly on off the top of my head, but it will be on the second Monday of June. And having said that, let's do our final prayer, and then daughter will have the waters there, right, daughter? And so we can all go home to our most cherished places, most cherished place of our lives. So with this, let's think about Jesus and all the good teachings that he left us here, with the examples that he set for us while doing the right thing, because it was the right thing to do, as we just heard and learned. So, dear Jesus, with tonight's message, tonight's meeting, we would like to thank you for the blessings that we feel, the blessings that we receive every single day of our lives, especially because we are alive. because we received the biggest blessing of all from God, the opportunity to exist. And in this life, in this reincarnation, learn to use these moments that we have here to be the best human being that we can be, helping others, helping ourselves, to be part of this universe, of building a better place for everyone that live here. So thank you for giving us the teachings that make us be better people and help us overcome our own problems, our own difficulties, to really be one day when we learn to love one another, to be called your disciples. So it is with your blessings, with your love, with the gift of your presence in our lives, in our hearts, that we thank you once again for everything that we received and pray that we can all together be following you now and forever. With your permission, we finish our meeting tonight with love and hope in our hearts. So be it. So with this, we end our meeting, and although we still have something going on, we finish our meeting for tonight in hopes that we can all come back at one point. Thank you very much.